to my channel. So this is my premium bonds and emergency fund update for July and August 2024. So I got out of the habit of doing this video, and I think my excuse will be that it was summer holidays and I was busy with holidays and other things. But I think it's important that, given that my premium bond balance and my savings account balance, building up my emergency fund is really important to me. It's useful that I track the figures here, no matter how big or small they are. So I'll start with the premium bonds. So I think what I will say is, I think because I took money out my premium bonds to pay for something that wasn't an essential, what can I say? It demotivated me a little bit because I had a £1,550 there. I mean, at the end of the day, this is my part of my emergency fund. So if an emergency comes up and I need the money, I'm happy to withdraw it. But if I'm withdrawing it for something that I probably could have saved up for, given a few more months, and could have planned for, then it frustrates us a bit because I'm starting a bit back from square one. And we'll come on to that when I talk through the summary. But you can see at the end of June, I only had £175 in premium bonds. So we moved to July, and then I contributed £25, and that went to £200 as my final holding. And the probability of me winning in a month was 1%, and unsurprisingly, I didn't win in July. So then we moved to August and started out with £200. I contributed another £25, and I didn't win again. But that's unsurprising given the amount of money that I had held in the account. So now my final holding with premium bonds is £225, which means that my odds of winning each month are 1%, and it'll take me, if I didn't contribute any more money to this, with average luck, I should win one time in every 93 months. And I'm trying to think what's 93 in years. So 12, 36, 48, 60, 72. Like, say, once every 8 to 9 years, which isn't great. So I'm hoping that month on month I can contribute to this. I'm hoping that, over the next few months I can contribute a bit more of a substantial amount to get back up to the level I was before, and just move it on to my savings account. So this is where the bulk of my emergency fund is. So actually in June, when I withdrew a lot of money from my premium bonds, that actually was used to top up my cash. Well, part of it was used to top up my cash emergency fund. And the reason for that is because premium bonds are easily accessible, but they can take a day or two to get into your account. To get into your bank account once you decide to sell them. So I like to have some money in a bank account that's really easily accessible, that I can transfer to my main account or get out the cash machine whenever I need it. So I felt a bit vulnerable that I only had £200 in that account at the end of May. So I got to do 1,000 in June. In July, I contributed £36. Didn't withdraw anything, and I gained £3 in interest. So the interest on this account is, at the time in July, I think it was about 4.01% or 4.03%. I've just had a notification that the interest on that account is reducing, unfortunately, but it's still going to be the high kind of 3%. So that meant the final balance in July was £1,049. I mean, my tactic with this is really to try and build a habit of adding a little bit to my emergency fund, and the challenge is not to withdraw anything. So I succeeded at that challenge in June and July. Now August was a bit of a different story. So I started with a balance of £1,049. I then well, I bet might as well show these two things together. So really what happened is I have to withdrew £700, and that was because there was some things during the month going on holiday and booking tickets for friends and my partner to go to the Edinburgh tattoo. That cost a couple of £100. So while I was waiting for money to come back to us from people paying us, I had to withdraw money from this savings account to my current account so I could pay for the kind of tattoo and theatre tickets. And then once I got the money sent back to us that was owed us, then I transferred that back into my savings account. But I thought you might think, well, what's the point of you showing this kind of surplus and deficit here? But the reason is because really, in an ideal world, I'd have a separate pot of money in a fund that might have a couple of grand in that could be used for cases like this, so I'm not having to dip into this emergency fund, because what I'm wanting is to only be dipping into this amount of money when an emergency crops up, and paying for tickets to a theatre show or to the tattoo in Edinburgh isn't really an emergency, it's a luxury. So I ended August with a balance of £1,200. So I'm pretty glad that the balance is continuing to go up. As I said before, I do, so in a month where there's hasn't been an emergency, or I haven't had to kind of pay for things in the flat, unexpectedly, then I would like the balance to go up. Obviously, if something cropped up, say I had a leak in the flat and I needed to pay for it, then the emergency fund, that's what it's there for. So I am happy, and well, not happy, but I'm content in those months if it was to go down, because there'd be a reason behind it. So then, well, it's given away it already shown there, but you can see what the total across my premium bonds and savings account has been in July. So and yeah, I might as well show August, so you can see that month on month I've been increasing. Well, since June I've been increasing the premium bonds figures and increasing the savings account figures, so that in August I have £1,425 as an emergency fund, and that's split across premium bonds and a cash savings account. What is my ideal emergency fund? Well, I think I've always, for the past few years, I've always been in the habit of getting it to around 1,000, 1,500, and then diverting my money to mortgage overpayments or my stocks and shares ISA. And I think the reason for that is because I find those two kind of vehicles more exciting than building an emergency fund. However, it leaves me, by doing that and not building a sufficient buffer, it leaves us feeling vulnerable, and things might crop up in life that I'm going to have to either sell my investments or have a few months where I'm really feeling like I'm behind and having to chase my tail and catch up with myself. So I'm really trying to change my behaviour and think, well, actually, if I was to spend the next year or next 6 months building up a really, really good emergency fund, that would probably do more for my mental well-being and my worrying than it would if I had that equivalent money in the mortgage as an overpayment or in my investments. And really, in the grand scheme of things, me taking up to a year to build a really decent emergency fund isn't really going to derail my goals by that much, because I only have to build it I don't want to say I only have to build it the once, but to start with, I only have to build it the once, and then when I've got it, I only need to replenish it if an emergency does come up. But the sort of benefit I'll have is that actually, the dream would be if I had £12,000 in an emergency fund, because that would represent to me a year of necessary living expenses for me, for my costs. So, it cost me £500 a month for my share of the mortgage and the kind of house bills like gas and electricity, council tax. And then, the remaining 500 to make up £1,000 a month is probably what I could live off if, for paying for personal bills like phone bill, and then also food and what have you. So if I lost my job, I could probably, with a tight budget, live off £1,000 a month. So that would cover me for a year whilst I look for an alternative job. The other thing is that £12,000 would represent to me like a year of keeping the property kind of afloat. So if me and my partner both lost our job, we know that the mortgage and the bills, aside from food, could be paid for a year. And I think that would be a really big peace of mind. And that's like covering one of the worst case scenarios, because obviously me and my partner work in different sectors, totally different jobs. So hopefully the chances that we'd both lose our jobs at the exact same moment is quite slim. But obviously, these things can happen. So that was a bit of a waffle. Just a bit about my plans. The ideal, if I had £12,000 as an emergency fund, it'd be great if £6,000 were in premium bonds and £6,000 was in my cash savings account, and then I would just stop kind of adding money to these accounts. But these videos will become me like talking about actually, how am I winning anything in premium bonds, and what's my interest look like that's accruing on that money. So that's this month's update. Let me know about if you've got any tips on an emergency fund, what you do. I know there's people do talk about sinking funds. That's something that I have been doing in terms of savings pots, which has been helpful, but it does take a while to build those things up. So yeah, I'll pause there and I'll see you in the next video.